Well, hello there, YouTube. It is the annual preview for the Eastern Sierra Fishing Opener. That's right, it's time for Fishmas. So let's get into it. Lots to cover. We're going to start from the south and work our way north and talk about the different good things, the bad things, the challenges, the status of certain lakes, and all that stuff. So come along with me. Let's do this. Starting out at Diaz Lake. And why are we talking about Diaz Lake for the opener? It's year round. You might be asking that. Well, because it's a good option. They've been planting plenty of fish there through the winter, and there's got to be some good fishing in there. And I think it's going to be a good option. You know, you guys have been driving from San Diego, Orange County, the kids are starting to get antsy in the back seat. This could be a great place to pull over, jump out of the car for, a little while and scratch that fishing itch. It's easy access. There's no real tough shorelines here. If you're, ADA or you don't really walk too well, this is a great option for you guys on the way northbound. Stop off there and hit Diaz Lake, and you know what? Even if there's a lot of people there, and there likely will be some people because it's right on the road and everybody kind of knows it's there, but it won't be crowded. So the next stop, Lone Pine, you got the creek there. And so starting with that, it's important you guys know that there were some changes to the laws, to the fishing game laws for the Eastern Sierra. And it involves quite a few waters up there. So stay tuned. We're going to release another video that completely details what those changes mean. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and we will update and talk about exactly what those changes were and how it will affect these fishing spots. And believe me, it does. There's a lot of changes up there. So, but Lone Pine, here we are in still the Southern Sierra, and there are some creek options here that will be planted, and they always do a good job of keeping Lone Pine sand trap and some of the other sand traps in the area planted. There's if you don't know what a sand trap is, see my video. Just search my channel for sand traps, and you'll see what those are. Great little fishing opportunities from Lone Pine to Big Pine, and definitely worth checking out. So all the creeks, speaking of creeks in the Southern Sierra, you can go all the way up to Big Pine Creek, and we'll check in on that right now. Let's get going. How about we stop off at Big Pine and then work our way north from there as far as the creeks go? Because there are really some smaller options in there, but we don't need to talk about every single creek. There's just too many of them to cover all. So right here in Big Pine, you have the Owens River off to the right there. There's going to be some fishing opportunities along here. And then, of course, Big Pine Creek up on the main road that goes up the mountain. There are some spots up there. Now, the snow has mostly melted below 9,000 feet. There are still some areas on the north-facing sides of areas that still have some snow, but it's been a little while since there's been a snowstorm. So look for some good opportunities in these lower areas. I think some of these creek spots might be the better spots for the opener. So moving on to Bishop, California, this is going to be probably the main show for the Southern Sierra. It usually is. So where to fish there? Well, you got intake 2, and again, guys, understand that there are changes to these laws, and very important to know what's going on with intake 2. And like I said, there are changes here. So, but intake 2, you can fish it. It'll be open, and we'll talk about the changes on that other video, but it should be good. There, I already saw Department of Fish and Game already planting this, and there'll be plenty of fish in there for the opener. Now, down the line, if you're like, oh, we'll show up, we'll just go later, 2 weeks after the opener. Well, I don't know that there's going to continually be large amounts of fish in this lake. I think that you're going to see some challenges once these other lakes open up. Now, what do I mean by open up? Well, they're going to be open to fishing, but see, Lake Sabrina, as of right now, is iced over. And so it's just whatever is in there from last year. Now, over here on the South Lake side, you got Jared over there at Parcher's done a great job maintaining the resort and trying to get some fish into this lake here at South Lake. They had it drained a couple of years ago, and they've been working real hard to re up on the fish. And I know last fall they were putting in quite a lot. So I think when South Lake opens up for fishing here soon, hopefully, we got still a little time here before the opener, and it's been pretty warm. So maybe all these lakes will thaw out before then. It's going to be close, but it's going to take a good wind event, I think. But when it gets going, South Lake will be a great option. I think there's going to be some really nice fish coming out of there this year. And they were getting those private plants. So right here also in Bishop, in the Bishop area is Bishop Creek. And this should fish pretty well. A lot of people ignore it, mainly because of the access. Access is kind of tough. It's kind of rough and real rugged area. But you got to think, guys, this has been getting fish for years. I mean, over 50 years, plant after plant after plant after plant. And then you got floods and everything pushing those fish downstream. So there's some decent fish tucked into that creek bed down in the lower canyons. And I think there are. I think there's a good population. So right there in town, Pleasant Valley Reservoir, yeah, you can fish this on the opener. I mean, it's open year round, and it's another great option. Let's say you guys get up there a couple days early, go to Pleasant Valley and fish it. I mean, it's a big lake. There's plenty of room for you guys to spread out. For those that are still freaking out about COVID, I think that's going to be one of the better options. Get up there and spread out. It's going to be a little warm there. The first couple days up there before, it's going to feel pretty warm in this canyon. So don't worry about bringing too much winter clothes for that one. It gets super hot here in the summer, but the right now over winter and in the spring, it's really pleasant there. And I think you guys, no pun intended with Pleasant Valley Reservoir, but it is pleasant there, and it's a nice place to go. Even into the earliest of summer, it's still not that bad. But by June, July, it gets kind of nasty at times. So anyway, moving up, Crowley Lake. This is going to be, and usually is, ground zero. Usually when they were talking about Fishmas back in the day, it was Crowley Lake. I mean, they were, up to 20, 30,000 people showing up to Crowley, and it was slammed. And, well, I think that might be happening this year. Why? Because last year you had a late opener, and it just wasn't the same. And I think this year with a real Fishmas opener, you're going to see a whole lot of people showing up to Crowley Lake and just crash in this place. But the good thing is it has the fish population. It does get plants. They did plant it. They're going to get a couple of small private plants, but it has a large wild population that run up into the Owens up here over winter, breed, and then run back down. So you got a large population of fish there. I don't think you're going to see any shortages of fish here, even with the hatchery issues. So don't worry about that. Across the street over here, nearby Crowley, you got Convict Lake. Now, this is also a very popular spot for opening weekend, and rightfully so. It's a famous lake. It's beautiful to look at. And they've been getting those private fish too. And I think they'll probably get a load of private fish, and Department of Fish and Game will plant. So I think those of you going in the opener, I think in the early mornings of the opener, should be fishing well. But remember, this is a very deep lake. It's 180 feet deep. And that makes for challenges on the fish. They have a lot of options. And but every year somebody's getting something nice out of there, and so I think it'll be a good option for those wanting to go up there. A little tough access, a little bit hard to fish at times, but we'll talk about it on the Patreon side. Just like all these lakes, guys, we're going to cover all these lakes I'm talking about. We're going to cover them in detail for the Patreon side before the opener. We'll have a nice video out for you guys to watch and take advantage of that information, some detailed fishing spots. So if you're interested in that, you're new, maybe never been to the Sierra and you need a little bit more than this, then stop on over to Patreon. We'll hook you guys up. Moving over to Mammoth Lakes. Well, same thing every year. You got the roads are closed; they're not open yet, and but you can walk in, and I'm sure some of these lakes are going to be fishing well. They've already been filming over here on the county tourism sites and all that. And there's plenty of open water, so I think that it's going to fish very well for that opener, and you're going to see some nice fish coming out of there even with the access issues and such. But some of it's open. Some of it's open. The roads are open in some of those areas, but some of these back road spots are still closed for the season. And there's a snowstorm expected. And sometimes when they expect the snowstorm, they just close it ahead of time. So be ready for that. I would not count on Mammoth being all the way open, but Mammoth was the strongest fishing up in the Sierra last year because of the plants by the city was pumping money into putting some nice fish in there. So with that, moving to June Lake Loop, one of my favorite spots in the Sierra to fish. I really like this area because you got a lot of options really close, and you can literally lake hop. I have fished all these lakes in less than a half a day and done more than well at all of them in that small amount of time. June Lake. Now, here's a little story out of June Lake. If you go to June Lake Resorts Facebook page, they talk about having these fish pens that they received, and what they're doing is they got 2,000 pounds of fish that were planted. However, that those fish will not be planted for the opener. They are to be released 100 pounds at a time through the season. And I know some people had the impression that we planted 2,000 pounds ahead of the opener. No, they didn't. And so you basically have a wild population of cutthroat, bows, and some browns that are in there. There's a lot of fish in June Lake, guys. Even though it gets some heavy pressure, there's still a ton of fish in there. And you're not going to undo, 50 years of plants in one season. You're not. You're just not going to do it. So there's plenty of fish in there, but it definitely is seeing a decline in the fish activity, and as well as gull. Gull saw the worst damage, I think. Last year was terrible there. They had a few private plants that produced some nice fish, but the overall holdover population out of gull is absolutely trash now. So hopefully that'll change when those hatcheries come online. I do know that the hatcheries that supply some of these lakes, the Mojave hatchery and all these, they're still down hard, guys. They're not going to be up for at least another couple more years. So it's just a couple hatcheries that are supplying the entire Sierra, the whole Southern California region, and a few other places. So it's really strained. The system is super strained right now. Silver Lake has already posted that they've received some private plants from Desert Springs Hatchery, and that's great. Silver fished very well. It was one of the better ones last year, better performers, and that's good news. And Reverse Creek here, fishing well. Like I said, make sure we're all checking regulations. Rush Creek fishing well, same thing, regulations issues. Grant Lake. So Grant Lake is going to be one of my top picks for the opener for everybody, for the newbie, for the experience. And why is that? Well, it's Grant Lake. If you've ever driven by it, it's a massive lake with not much to look at. There's a couple of views of some mountains and stuff, but the views aren't much. People go up here for fishing, and a lot of people just stay away. And if you ever notice, the Grant has received fish plants forever, but it is one of the most underfished lakes with road access in the entire Sierra. So there are some massive browns in this lake, and I think it's going to fish well. And I think it's going to be a great option for those looking to get away from people. And you could park anywhere along this road and go down. We're going to have some good tips for people for the Sierra opener on the Patreon side. I'm excited to talk about that. Some of these backcountry lakes will be open for fishing, and some of them will be better than others. Make sure to do your research and be prepared, because some of those roads getting to them and hiking trails are still kind of icy and snowy, and could cause some problems for you. And you don't want to ruin your trip by getting stuck out in the middle of nowhere. It's no fun. So Lundy Lake is going to be another one. Should be good access. It will be open, and should be beautiful out there. The fishing was kind of rough here last year. It is highly dependent on fish plants, but it did get planted. I saw it on the list. So Department of Fish and Game did hit this lake already. It will have fish for the opener. Now, how that'll be and what the fishing will actually be like is yet to be seen. I mean, I guess we'll just have to gamble it. I think I'll be stopping by there on my trip just to check it out, make time for it. So moving along over here at the Virginia Lakes Basin, what is going to happen here? Well, right now, I mean, ice off is likely at Big Virginia because it is pretty warm. But Little Virginia probably going to be icy still. We'll see. But this is going to be one of those that almost every year there are almost always ice fishing for the opener. So could be a couple of weeks after that. But last year, the opener, it was available. So, but we're going to leave it for what happens that day. I mean, it could be open now. And like I said, there's a cold front coming. It could ice right back up. That water is not warming up that fast. So it could be a problem when the opener hits. I never count on Little Virginia or Big Virginia being open. Bridgeport Reservoir, 100% on my list, and I think it should be on your list too. A lot of people just stay south and they fishing in Bishop Creek and that on there, and that's fine. But you have to you have to give Bridgeport Reservoir its due. It's going to produce. I think it's going to produce the biggest fish of the opener by far. I really do. I think there's going to be some big browns coming out of here, and you're going to see some photos over there at Ken's Sporting Goods. By the way, if you're there in Bridgeport, stop off and see Ken's Sporting Goods. They're an old school tackle shop, man. They've been there a long time, and they're a big advocate. They're one of the few that really tries to support the area, and they're a big part of the Bridgeport Fish Enhancement Program. And shout out to them and Ken's for all the work they do up there in the Eastern Sierra, trying to keep things fishable. And I really like what they're doing. So spend some money in there. Get in there and get something from them. Buy a pair of pliers or something. But yeah, Bridgeport Reservoir going to fish good. Now, right over here, coming out of there, Robinson Creek, this whole section of the creek, they stock this, guys. This all gets planted. Should be good. Twin Lakes has been posting up. The resorts up here have been posting up that they have already been getting several plants. Some big plants have gone in here. I think you're going to see some nice ones out of here as well. The only challenge here, these lakes are massive. If you guys have ever been up there, man, they're huge. And it could be kind of daunting in that early, stage of somebody's fishing career to show up to this lake and try to pick a spot. So if you're not sure, like I said, stop on to Patreon and we'll cover some newbie tips for that, for those lakes. And that'll help you guys out. But otherwise, I mean, this should be pretty good. No matter where you go, you should have a decent shot. I think, again, you're going to see some big ones coming out of here for the opener and the weeks to follow, and probably throughout the year. They're a big draw for the area, so they're going to get some heavy plants, and state records have come out of here quite a bit. So you're going to see some bigger fish just on average. The West Walker up here out of Bridgeport Reservoir that runs through the canyon here, all of this has been getting fish. Some Bridgeport Fish Enhancement. East Walker's been fishing well the last few years, so be ready for that to be good. And then, you have all the creeks that are in the area. Like I said, not going to go over all of them. There's just too many to talk about. And, the backcountry stuff, obviously, you got to be pretty experienced to get back there with the ice and snow. So that's going to be it. There's really not much more to talk about on this video. We do have the regulations video coming up, as well as my top picks for the opener. I'm going to talk a little bit about that and give my favorites up there and just talk a little bit about that. And then we have some other videos coming very soon for the new fishermen. So if this is your first time on the channel, definitely stay around with us. We like to have new people. Don't be afraid to post up questions and all that. Definitely try to get as many of those answered as soon as I can, especially the day that I post the videos. I try to post up as much as I can and get you guys' questions answered. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to get going. Got some other stuff to do. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one and got some information out of it. And as always, the whole goal of this channel is to get you guys off your couch, get your families away from the video games and your phones, and get out here and fish. Get outdoors, guys. This is where real living is. This is where families are joined up and friendships are made, and it's just memories, man. So get out there. Hopefully this channel gets you guys doing it. That's what I want to see. And we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.